everybody. My name is Chad Boblett, and this is going to be a talk about going the extra mile, driver to carrier. My name is Chad Boblett. I am the creator of Rate Per Mile Masters. Raise your hand if you know what that group is. Almost everybody. If you're not a part of that group, then go to Facebook. It's a Facebook group. You request to join, and we'll let you in. I got co-host Pete Amizer and Shane Ferris with me. They're going to help me with some of this talk, and special guest Robert Rouse from DAT Analytics. If you stay around almost toward the end of this talk, we're going to let you know about a new product that got released today, something that I've been begging for a long time. You don't want to miss out on that. All right. Pete Amizer, am I saying it right? Is the CEO of Tadmore Transportation. It's a brokerage that he created himself. And I got Shane Ferris with me as well. He is a fleet owner at the creator of Green Miles, the president of Green Miles out of Willard, Missouri. And myself, I'm an owner-operator carrier of Boblett Brothers and the creator of Rate Per Mile Masters. The reason why I got Pete up here with me and Shane is because a lot of stuff that we're going to be talking about will be my viewpoint, but I also want there's other right ways to do things, and Shane can come at it with as a fleet standpoint. He's very knowledgeable in a lot of the stuff that we're going to be talking about, and like as far as getting your first truck, there's different ways to do that. And Pete, a whole lot of the stuff we're going to be talking about. Pete is on the other side of the spectrum of who we work with. All right. With that being said, moving on to the next one. We blew past that agenda, but that's all right. We're going from company driver to carrier, working with freight brokers and best practices. Something I just covered. One moment. Here we go. Watch this. This is all what it's going to be about right here.
Hey, this is Pete from Tadmore. Looking at your truck there in the Atlanta market.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you for calling me.
Hey, well, thanks for answering. Most people don't. Well, I've got one going up to Louisville, Kentucky. Says that's where you want to go. Good people on both ends, man. Easy on, easy off. Bob's going to load you. Sam's going to unload you. Aluminum extrusions and racks.
What's the weight on it?
32,000 pounds. I see you got $4 a mile on this DAT1. How handy is that? We can see what you need already.
Well, right. And for me, it weeds out the people that's going to want to be lower than what I know I can get coming out of here.
So I'm going to be I'm going to be close.
I know I'm getting a lot of phone calls when I'm with Atlanta here recently. So I shot for 4. You called. So can we get anywhere near what DAT is showing?
Well, I'm not trying to be a bad guy here because that's not my job, right? My job is to make sure it all works well.
Let me do one thing real quick, if you don't mind. Give me your MC number.
It's 709-413.
I just want to see if people are still talking good about you.
Oh, I appreciate that. You got to check everybody every time, man. Every time.
You got perfect reviews. Credit score is 97. Days to pay is 18. That checks the box with everything I'm looking for.
Well, reviews ain't going to pay your bills. What are you thinking, man? Give me a good rate. Let's meet in the middle.
DAT's always fair with their rates. Can we do 314?
All right, let's get her done, man.
Okay, thank you, Pete. Talk to you later.
All right, man.
There you go. All right, that's what it is. Going from what we're going to be talking about in working with freight brokers. Again, Pete was the broker in that. He is in real life, and I was the carrier in that, and negotiating a load, going from the beginning to the end, and getting the load from the broker. A lot of people are so intimidated by negotiating with brokers and getting on the phone with them and talking to them and making things like this happen and making it happen. But after you do it for a while, you get used to it. It's not that big of a deal. All right, next slide here. Rate Per Mile Masters, professional Facebook group focused on rates and logistics information. It was created in 2014 this month, March. That's 8 years ago, and consists primarily of owner-operators, carriers, brokers, and agents. And a small percentage of and a very small percent will be industry providers. We get a lot of people in there that, a lot of tech people like to join our group and collect information, which is great. It gives us better products. What time we're on this slide, I want to give a chance for my guest here to. They're also moderators in the group, and they've been in the group for a really long time and helped me out a lot with the group. So, hey, Pete, real quick, can you tell me the benefits of a Rate Per Mile Masters, what the group has been?
Probably 2014-ish, I read a book called Crush It by Gary Vee. If you guys know Gary Vee, love him to death. He talked about there's somebody doing, social media, there's somebody out there doing it. I found the article that, I can't remember who did the first article on your road dog or something. I found the group, and I came in June of 2014. And I'll tell you this, as everybody knows, when you go to social media, you get honest feedback. Sometimes it's not what you want to hear, but it's honest. And I think by being part of the group and getting a lot of honest feedback in real time, that it's made me a better broker. It's made me a better broker it's made me better in my job. And I'm pretty thankful to have the group and the feedback, and met a lot of friends, and wouldn't be sitting here right now without it.
Totally agree. Absolutely. 32,000 members right now, and that's vetted members. Not everybody gets in. We vet the people that are coming in. They have to explain what they are, a part of the industry. Yes, we could be a whole lot bigger than what we are, but that's not what it's about. We want quality. And we have a lot of CEOs in the group. A lot of people that it's part of, like, a lot of people want to watch their stock market and see what the stocks are doing. A lot of CEOs pay attention to this group to find out what's happening within their page. If someone said, I'm not going to mention the name, but it just happens daily where someone's having a problem, and if they go to the group, they'll get help. And usually it's from the CEO that'll come in and help out the situation. I've been to different events. TIE is a big one. And I asked, and I was a part of, this TIE, when you go to those events, lots of CEOs from big mega companies, and all of them are in this group. Anybody that's somebody is in this group. It's a very special place to be. You get lots of valuable information. I want Shane to get Shane's, see what he thinks about the group. What do you think the group has done for the industry?
The group has done incredible things for the industry. It's created incredible opportunities for the small carrier. One of the biggest things that I've always liked about the group is it's a conglomeration of industry professionals that have the same view in mind. We can kind of bounce questions and ideas off of each other, get advice from each other based upon our experiences. It's helped me develop our standards for our company. It's it's a great source for different materials. We've exchanged contracts to the group. We've exchanged different best practices through the group, market conditions. It really keeps everybody on top of where the market is today and the best way to profit from the market.
Absolutely. Now, I'm going to try to do this real quick because this gets into a long story. It turns into like 2 or 3 hours if someone listens to me long enough, and I've told it 100 times. So I'm going to cut this down to like 2 or 3 minutes. The reason why I started this group is when I first got started. I was always helping out owner-operators, carriers, owner-operators, and telling them, okay, let's go. I started off as a company driver. Then I skipped the whole leasing onto someone and got my own authority, and I started working with brokers at the very beginning. And I would go to these shippers and receivers and Petro, the truck stops, and talk to other drivers. And I was fascinated about how much more money you make when you have your authority. It was to go from company driver to having your own authority and making that kind of money. And I'm like, everybody needs to do this. Why would anybody be a company driver if you can make so much more money if you have your authority? It was like, but this is before I did the Facebook thing. So I would start talking to one driver, then I'd have a group of drivers, and then I would get there if I liked them, and they were pretty smart about what they were doing. And then I would collect their number. If they had their own authority, I'd be calling them while I'm going down the road. What did you get? Where are you going? What did the broker give you? I was really excited about that. So I wanted to help out guys. I wanted to help them go from being the company driver and making more money. Number two, I'm thinking about myself too. What I mean by thinking about myself is, if I help all of you all, if every single one of you don't everybody's always heard the word don't take cheap freight. Well, for me, it was always if I can change the mind of all these other people that's out here driving and get them one step higher in their rate per mile. Guess what? It's back to me. It's back to me. It's going to make it easier for me to get more money. So a lot of people say, "Oh, Chad, you're such a nice person." Maybe I am, but I'm really doing this for myself, right? Okay. I'll move on to the next part. There we go. Getting your own truck. All right. This is the part that the biggest obstacle in the trucking industry is getting your own truck, getting your first truck, and it's so hard to get your first truck. Both of these trucks that are in the picture are my trucks. I don't have the red one anymore, but getting the first truck, getting the first red truck that I got, that was back in 11 years ago, and no, I couldn't do it the traditional way, going through a bank. No bank would, even though they would give me $50,000 to buy a Humvee at the time. That was the thing. I remember getting an ad, and so I called them up. I was like, "You said you'd give me $50,000 to buy a Humvee. Will you give me $35,000 to buy this red truck that I grossed almost $1 million with, and before I got rid of it?" That didn't happen. Most people, they do the lease purchase, which is got a whole nother story of its own about how complicated it is to do the lease purchase and come out at the end with a truck that you own and you can make money with, start making a profit with. Anyway, so to get into this, save up money, or get a loan from a bank. The banks, they said, well, you've never owned a truck. We're not going to give you money to go and buy a truck. You've never been in business before. You have no business history, so we're not going to give you a loan for a business loan. That's what the banks used to say. Safest, the hardest. Getting the second truck, the white truck, that's after I'd been in business a while, and I was able to. That was pretty easy. Once I was able to show them business history, they had no problem at all getting that. So the bank is the safest, but it's also the hardest. The traditional lease purchase, and we'll come back to that real quick and talk about the alternative lending or credit cards. All right, alternative lending, I threw that in there. It is the alternative lending would be getting money from a family member, or peer-to-peer type of lending. You don't hear people talk about it much, but I threw it in there. The other one is credit cards. Yep, I used 4 credit cards to buy that red truck. A lot of people don't believe that, but the same dealership, the same guy that sold it to me, he still works there. 4 credit cards to buy that red truck, and that's how I did it. Would I recommend it? No, because a lot of people frown up on it. But if I had to do over with, I would do it again. And the reason why is because it works. It worked for me, and I did it in 0% interest. Again, that truck costed $35,000, and guess what? I paid it off in 6 months. There was a lot of reasons why I did that too. It helped me get my first trailer because the truck had no lien on the title. No lien on the title. I was able to take that title and go down the street and say, "Hey, I know you're not going to give me a loan to buy that trailer, but if I use this truck as collateral, would you let me buy the truck from you?" And because it had no lien on the title, they let me buy the trailer from them. And the thing they used to think about is like, no matter how bad it gets, no credit card company's going to take this Volvo from me, right? So I mean, I like that story. All right, so here's the part. The main reason why I wanted Shane to be here is because the lease purchase. And I give a lot of advice to a lot of people. I talk to them one-on-one. You see me talk in the group to other people about giving advice and stuff. Well, I do a whole lot of stuff that you all don't see one-on-one with guys. You know, if someone's needing help, I can't turn them down. I'm going to talk to them. And the thing that the traditional lease to purchase, it's like almost most of them, a majority of lease purchases don't work out. It's like as soon as it's like as soon as they get to the end of the lease, the truck has so many miles on it that they have to turn around and get into another lease purchase. I see so many headaches with it. But anyway, I'm not the expert in this area. I want Shane to hit on this and talk about the traditional lease purchase, pros and cons. Can it be done?
Well, the initial question, can it be done? Yes and no. Most lease purchases out there are designed and put together for the benefit of the company. I'm a firm believer that if the lease purchase is built right and is put together with the driver in mind, then yes, absolutely they work. There's no doubt, we've proven it. But I can also say most of your problem in the lease purchase programs is drivers that come from a company mindset. They find a company that says, hey, we're going to put you in a brand new truck. We're going to charge you, $1,000 a week for it, and in 4 years you'll own it. Well, what they don't tell you is you are going to work yourself to death to pay for that brand new truck. You're getting a $175,000 truck at zero down, and if you do the math, it's going to cost you $1,000 a week. Every time you go home, you're going to come out negative, and you have to make that up. In my opinion, it's not the best method to go to truck ownership. Most first-time owners need to start with a used truck. Whether if you're very mechanically inclined, you can go to something really old, or you don't want to do the work on your truck yourself, and you need something 2 or 3 years old that's kind of taking that big hit in depreciation. Precluding this current market, obviously. But I kind of lost my mind track there for a second. Sorry about that. Yes, if you can find a carrier that offers a lease purchase program and you read the contract, make sure you read the contracts. The devil's in the details on everything you do. Make sure that there's no gotchas at the end. Make sure there's no big balloon payments at the end. Make sure that there is a termination date on the contract, and that termination culminates in ownership of the truck, not you turning it back in and getting written a $3,000 or $4,000 check for your lease completion. There absolutely is a way to make the programs work. You just have to, protect yourself on entry.
To go along with that, I love to see lease purchases like this. And if you grow your company as a carrier, this is the next step. If that's the route you decide to go, is to buy equipment and do lease purchases with other guys, help them get into their first truck. Really like this idea. I wish all trucking companies did it this way. That made it easier for guys to get their first truck. The one thing that I really get that I hate seeing is whenever someone does a lease purchase and they're forced to take the freight that the carrier makes them take, and they get into those $+ fuel surcharge things. That's as soon as I see that, no, I don't like it. I don't like it at all. I like to be able to, if the lease purchase, if buying the truck, if that's kind of a good deal, and also you get to run the spot market and you get to work with brokers. Absolutely. Again, I've worked with brokers ever since I got my authority for 11 years. I never leased on to anybody. I went straight from company driver to working with brokers. That's all I've done. I won't do anything else. I don't want to work with direct shippers. I want to work with brokers. To add to that, and when I see good stuff like this happening in the industry, Shane Ferris is a very small fleet. Very small fleet. He's very selective. It ain't like, some fleets, they'll hire anybody they can get. They're constantly doing hiring. It's like, or the truck companies, all of the truck companies are hiring. They're always looking for drivers. Shane's very selective. You can go to him, he might not, and there's a good chance you might not get a job with him. And because Shane's been very selective of this, and I wish I had some pictures of what I'm getting ready to show you, but here's what happens whenever you do a lease purchase with the right company. They get their title at the end.
We've got 2 of our drivers here in the front row with us today. Chris and Vern, if y'all could come up to the stage, I'd greatly appreciate it.
We'll make this real quick. Let's congratulate these people.
This is the proof that lease purchase can work. Vern, there's your title. I've already signed it. Congratulations. Chris, there's yours. Thank you very much.
Now, right there is how it's done. I'm not, saying, hey, well, this is the company you need to go drive for. Again, Shane's very selective. He doesn't have to go. He doesn't have to do very much. When you're doing things the right way, drivers will find you and come to you. Shane is not one of these people that ever advertises because he's got people on waiting lists that want to come run for him. All right, so we're moving on to the next one here real quick.
Kind of a side note, when he's talking about forced dispatch, I had a friend of mine who went under a lease purchase, forced dispatch. He's almost to the end of his lease, and all of a sudden they're putting him on dollar a mile freight, and I'm using dollar a mile as an example, and he could no longer make his payments. They set it up for failure. And so forced dispatch is not the way you want to be with that.
Right, exactly. That's the best point right there is if you have the control, like where I can run the spot market, if we're going to see right now rates are really good. You can fall out of your truck and get $3 per mile. But it's not always going to be like that. It's eventually going to start slowly going the other way. It always does. It always has. The last 11 years, it goes up, goes down, it goes up, goes down. When that happens, you got to be prepared. And if you're running the spot market, the dollar plus fuel surcharge I don't like, but if you're running the spot market, I can alter what I'm doing. Okay, yes, going coast to coast, maybe I need to back off that and start running some local stuff, running some real short stuff, and getting the higher dollar per mile stuff. That's the reason why I'm so, when you're doing those lease purchases, is to stick with something where you can run the spot market. Is that good, Pete? Good? All right, next slide. All right, here's what I talked about this 3 or 4 years ago when I was doing this presentation at DAT, and I'm going to do it again because I like talking about this. And now this is stuff I talk about in the group all the time as well. Myths about getting your own authority. You need to lease to another carrier first to better prepare for your business. Is it required? I didn't do it. I went straight, like I said, I went from company driver to getting my own authority. And when I see a lot of these companies that you would lease onto, well, I don't know. I don't understand why people give this type of. The reason why I bring it up is because I see people giving this advice all the time. You need to go lease onto someone. It's like a progression. You need to go from company driver to leasing onto someone, then get your authority. You can't, but it's not required. Some people it's good. It's good for them to do it that route, and some people it's not. For me, it would have been bad because. What if I got with one of those really bad companies that's taking a whole bunch of my money? I mean, the only thing good about that is to learn how to survive with less money, right? Well, the good thing I did about running under my own authority is I got more money and I was able to figure out the system. There's a system to this, and I figured it out, and I was able to profit real fast and a lot more than a lot of other people. But what's your opinion, Shane?
I think it varies from person to person. There are some people that are very, very open to risk. They're willing to take chances. They're willing to go out on their own, and they can do very well. There's also people that are very risk averse, and they feel more comfortable with that progression, or maybe they just aren't really secure in their ability to negotiate. They're not secure in their ability to take care of the trucks or to do what it takes for a company to be successful. And in that case, the benefit of having a support system while you learn is advantageous. But as you say, it absolutely can be done.
Yes, for sure. And Shane, when he first got started, he was a company driver. I'm sure I don't know that part of his history, but he did the lease purchase as well, and that means lease to another company, and then went into getting his own authority. And now he's now he has a fleet. All right, do you need to know how to work on your truck? I like this part because I see this all the time, this type of advice being given all the time. You need to know how to work on your truck so you can repair it. And you need to know how to do this or you won't make it type of stuff. Well, that is a lie. That's a lie. I know nothing about working on trucks. Maybe a mud flat, maybe a light or so, but I don't like to get dirty. I don't like to work on trucks. It is a benefit if you do know how to do those type of things. You know, electrical, air leaks. I mean, if you can get educated on that type of stuff, yes, you're going to be better off. But as far as, you know, some of these guys want to give advice about you need to know how to go in and do motor type work and change out the alternator and the radiator. No, 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 no. I make my money going down the road. If my truck starts having that many problems, it's going to the shop, and I'm going to pay somebody to do it. While it's in the shop, I'll go do other things, laundry, take a break, get a hotel. What do you think about working on your truck?
If you know how to do it, it's great. It's hugely advantageous to be able to fix your truck yourself, to be able, if your alternator goes out, hey, you know what? I can change an alternator in about 30, 40 minutes. I can be back on the road and make it back to making money rather than waiting for a shop for, 3 or 4 hours or 2 days. But conversely, when I started, I did a lot of my own work. As I got more secure in the industry, I decided I wanted to do less and less work. I didn't want to get as dirty. But the knowledge that came from doing the work was very advantageous. You pull into a shop and you're blowing a bunch of black smoke, and the shop tells you, well, you know what, your piston rings are wore out, you're going to need a new engine. You tell them, no, black smoke is fuel, it's not oil. Find a fuel problem.
A key point, absolutely. Where someone that knows how to work on the truck, they're not going to stress like myself, where whenever with an older truck and it starts having problems, I get very anxiety, like, oh my gosh, we're going to have a whole lot of problems here. Of getting to a shop and getting them to do it. You don't know how bad the problem is. Okay, the next part here. You need to have your own customers. I get this all the time. You should have your own customers before you get your authority. For 11 years, how many customers have I had? I don't have none. Never have. I don't want them. I've done direct customer freight, direct shipper freight. There's pros and cons to it. For me, I talk about the cons of having direct shippers. The cons are I don't want to be. If you're working with a direct shipper, then they're going to expect you to spoil them, go take care of them, do things for them. Whereas a broker, their responsibility is to do all that middleman stuff, where taking care of the shipper, they spoiling the shipper. All I want to do is talk to the broker. Where's the load, and ask the details to go get the load. But you do not need to have your own customers. But there is a benefit of having your own customers, and here's another thing: whenever rates get bad, and everybody's struggling to make it because rates get really low, that's when people want their customers. When the best time to get direct customers is right now, with freight being as good as it is. So, with that being said, the best people to ask how to get your own customers is a broker. Make friends with a broker and get a relationship and start asking them. They'll tell you, just like right now. Go ahead, Pete. Tell them how you get your own direct customers.
I don't know.
Well, I want to add something to that. Pete is one of the few that does not have to shop for customers that much.
I used to work at a big broker. We did a lot of cold calls. We did a lot of pounding the phones, begging for freight. I have honestly not went after a new customer in probably 7 or 8 years. We're pretty niche oriented. We have a great reputation. And normally when somebody calls us, they call us at Friday night at 6 and we answer the phone. And if we're the 7th person they called, then we answer the phone. Now, advice for a driver to get his own customer, I've used this in the group several times. I think everyone should have their own business card with your company name. And you should say, hey, my name is Bob. I'm calling in from Bob's U-Haul. Here's my cell phone. I'll be in the lot. You call me when you need me. And you drop that card with them. And that way they have your contact information. They know you run the city. And if they're looking for somebody at Friday night at 6 p.m. and you're now the 8th call, they're going to call you, and now you got a direct customer. That's my opinion.
Great. I love it. Also, here's another trick. Creating a relationship with the broker, building that relationship with the broker. Let me tell you this about working with Pete. Me and Pete, we've been friends, and Shane, for about 8 years, ever since I started the group. And the deal I have with Pete, and you can do this with any broker or any agent, the trick is to have that relationship there. Someone that you can go out and hang out with, that if you're in town, that broker will come to your truck stop. Hey, Pete, have you ever been to a truck stop to see a trucker?
Of course.
Awesome. How many agents do you work with that'll go out and do that? If you can make a relationship with a broker, an agent that does that, then you're on to something. Now, the thing that I do with Pete, and you can do this with anybody, like I said, is if I come across a direct shipper that wants to work with me, then the deal that I'll send them to Pete. Pete will secure the deal better than I can. And what I tell Pete is, now all that freight that you get from that particular customer, I get to pick the one load that I want with my one truck. He lets me have that load and have it at the full price. He gets all the other stuff. He gets to take care of it, and I get my one load from that one particular customer. You could do that with any broker. Most brokers will do that, right?
They're a fool if they don't.
Right, exactly. Okay, all right. And well, here's another one that everybody that's on the verge of getting their own authority, the one thing that they'll ask is, will brokers work with new authority? Let me sum this up real quick. If I were to make a list, if I want to make a list of all the brokers that'll work with the new authority, it's best to make that list of the brokers that will not, because it's a very small percent that will not. It gets a lot of attention. It scares people getting their new authority, and they're worried about it. Pete, will you work with new authority?
100%.
Why do some brokers? Oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, and this comes with a warning. When you file your authority, I've actually had a lot of people I've talked to say, hey, I disconnected my phone number that I filed my authority with because my phone calls get so many phone calls from brokers trying to run me and factoring companies and yada, yada, yada. Do not run for one broker. Do not run for two brokers. Do not run for three brokers. Do not feel like you're at a disadvantage because you are new. If you have quality, it doesn't matter how old you are. When people say, hey, do you work with new authorities? I always say, as long as it's not your 10th new authority. But everybody starts off new at one time. And you just go out there, and when you talk about people who won't work with new authorities, I think it's because someone got burned by somebody who was 4 months old, and they're not very good at assessing on a point-to-point basis. Therefore, they just make the rule nobody older than 6 months or nobody younger than 6 months. But you will find brokers, a lot of times smaller brokers, and I've got guys I've been working with for 8, 9, 10 years, and it kind of works out well. I mean, you just got to keep pounding.
Awesome, I love it. All right, hitting on this slide here real quick. You need to have a lot of money saved up to get started to start your own business. You need to have a lot of money saved up. I'm going to say money allows a risk. The less money you have, then the less risk you need to be taking. The more money you have, the more risk you can take on. That's the way you need to look at that when it comes to money. When I started, I tell people all the time that if my truck didn't come, the first truck I bought, if it didn't come with a half a tank of fuel, I probably never would be here right now because I would have never made it. That's all the money I had. Is that the way to go? So how did I minimize that with very little money to minimize the risk? Well, I started doing very, very short runs. Do a short run, got paid. I got some more money. Now I can do a little bit longer. I got more fuel. The fuel stopped off. I can go a little bit longer. One truck's paid off. Hell, I can take this truck all the way to the West Coast if I want to. See how that works? That's what money allows you to do. Let me have Shane throw in some advice on this. I want Shane to say something because often people say, Chad, you're going to get these people in trouble. They're going to lose everything. Now, if you have a lot of debt and you're going to be jeopardizing your family, your house, your car, stuff like that, you need to be thinking about that kind of stuff. But that's not my way of thinking. Is how much with your business. I'm just thinking about your business. You think about your personal life. But go ahead, Shane.
Well, there really isn't much for me to say after that. I mean, it is a big matter of risk. I mean, it tends to be if you have plenty of money, you're going to be a lot more willing to make mistakes, and you're going to learn a lot more. You're going to lose some of that money, obviously, but desperation is a hell of a teacher. If you're walking into this industry and you have to succeed, you don't have a choice but to succeed, then more often than not you will. You can walk into the business with a 10, 15-year-old red Volvo and everything, kind of fall into place and work it and make it work. Or truck could drop a transmission first day out. It's nice to have the money to replace the transmission, but the odds say that probably won't happen if you're working it from the beginning.
Absolutely. Money saved up. So that we pretty much hit that. Go to the next one here. Back. There we go. All right. This Carrie, I put Carrie's name up there. This is DAT. Anybody that doesn't know it, where do you go get your authority? A lot of people ask, where do you go to get your authority? DAT doesn't even advertise this as much as they should, as much as I wish they should, because this is the perfect place to get your authority. And the lady that got posted there, Carrie Puff, she actually did mine 11 years ago. She knows how to do this. She does it all the time. And the thing is, the reason why I recommend, if it's easy, you think it's easy, and you want to do it yourself, have at it. Every time I promote this or tell people to do it, I'll get more truck drivers tell me, well, I did it myself. But I also see guys that say, as soon as they try to do it themselves, they'll say, I became a carrier forward or a forward, whatever it is. And they went in to try to become a carrier, but they did something and became something else. And then they don't know how to reverse it and not become that, and then go back to being a carrier. It takes like 3 weeks. The last thing I want is at the end of 3 weeks, like, how come I don't have my authority? Well, you didn't do this right. I don't like working with federal agents and asking them questions like that. That's the reason why I recommend it. I crossed off safety compliance kit, and the only reason why I did is because I haven't studied what they have, but I have studied other ones. Do your research. Anybody that's giving you that's offering safety compliance, I totally trust DAT would probably have has a good service, but I have not looked into it yet. Anyway, that's her number. If you're looking into getting your authority, that's who I recommend. And she's over at the DAT booth. DAT trend lines. If you're in the Facebook group, you know that every week, as soon as this comes out, I'm the first person to post it. I post it, and the reason why I post it is because I look at it as soon as it comes out. It used to come out Monday, and it would come out around 5 p.m. East Coast time. And if it didn't come out at between 5 and it got to be around 6 or something, and they were late posting it, I was sending messages to the marketing people at DAT. Where's trend lines? How come it hasn't come out yet? That's how interested I am in the trend lines. Trend lines is a base number of what's going on. And why I'm so religious about this is because I always struggled in my head. Am I making it? Am I doing good? Am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing out here as a carrier? Because I didn't, at that time there was no group to tell me if I was making it or not. So the way I use this is like right on this chart here. It's showing 306 per mile for the spot market. So everybody that's currently running the spot market is at the average is at 306. So that means 50% of them are below that and 50% are above that. Now, if someone comes to me for advice asking, they want to know, I don't feel like I'm making any money. They want my advice. The first thing I ask is, what is your current rate per mile? And usually it starts right there is where the advice comes in. Well, you got to know what your rate per mile is. And then what I like to do is take my rate per mile and my loaded rate per mile and my deadhead. This number here, what it's showing is showing loaded rate per mile. But with the way I calculate it to make sure I'm doing good is I take my loaded rate per mile and my deadhead, add it together, and at the end of the week, did I beat DAT? Am I part of the people that's above the DAT average? That's where I want to be at, and I've done that from the very beginning. I make it my goal. It's a competition in my head to beat it, and I don't think I've ever been below the average. And I preach it all the time because so many people get wrapped around. They want to do the easy thing. I just want to sit in the truck and drive west coast to east coast. If you do that all the time, you're not going to be at the average. What do you have to add to the DAT? Do y'all have anything to add about trend lines?
Nothing that you will never improve anything you don't track. If you don't know how much you weigh, you're never going to lose weight. If you don't know, you have to know your numbers. There was an old member of our group called Don Cartledge, and he was so passionate about his numbers. He always helped everyone do the spreadsheets and know where you were at. And knowing what the benchmark is with the DAT Trendline product is so huge. So being able to rate where you're at against others, and I'm going to go a little further. I got a buddy of mine up in New England. He's doing $10,000 a week to his truck because he's in the New England market. This is the national, and you had to go into the zone maps to understand where this and that is, and gauge off of that. But yes, 100%, you have to know your rate per mile in order to improve that. And there's a lot of people willing not to work it. And all you got to do is work harder than 50% of the people you meet to be above 306. And thank God that becomes easier every day.
Absolutely. What do you got to say about trend lines?
I think it's an invaluable tool. One thing I can always say about the freight market is, for all the years I've been on it, it's always been a roller coaster ride. Traditionally, it's always been a pretty predictable roller coaster ride. If you've ridden it one year, it's going to be fairly similar the next year. You kind of get to know market trends, end of the month, end of the quarter, end of the year. You know what to expect. Unfortunately, the last 3 to 5 years has been pretty unpredictable. Normally, we'd come into January and we'd know that freight rates were about to drop. Well, that didn't happen this year. And if we wouldn't have had trend lines there to actually see what was going on in the market last week and kind of help us predict what's going on next week, we might have been accepting rates that were less than we should have.
Absolutely. Absolutely. When I first started this, it was always right below for dry van. I'm talking about dry van. A lot of the conversations Shane has will be about reefer because he does a lot of reefer. But dry van, it was always real close to $2 per mile. So $2 per mile for the longest time was the rate that I would go off of. $3 per mile. If you've been in this industry, you know about this. $3 per mile was I would have to show a proof of rate sheet. If I told someone online that I got $3 per mile, they wouldn't believe me. They would want to see the rate sheet to prove it. And now, if you're not getting 306 per mile, according to what DAT Trendline says, if you're not getting that, then you're below average. So let's push it to 4. All right, next slide. Next slide. Oh, there we go. All right. Billionaire. I just wrote this. I loved how it sounded. Hopefully, you all can take a nugget away from this. Billionaires don't invest in anything and everything. The same goes for running the spot market. Going anywhere, hauling anything is not the best way. And what brought this up is giving advice to people. As soon as they get their authority, the first thing they look at is, I just got my authority. I can run all 48 states and go anywhere and haul anything. And I used to give that advice. Go wherever in different ways of negotiating and go anywhere. But it became too much. If someone can start off focusing on a particular market and they can learn where's it going good. See, here's the thing. Not everybody does this. Not everybody focuses on what is the best market, what are the best states I can go to. Because if you focus on that and you go to those best states and stay in that market, you're going to do better than the rest of them because they don't do that. They don't do that. So the next part, I'm going to go back again, please. There we go. All right. I'll break down. In explaining this, you got the 48 states, and the way I do this is, what are the 16 worst states? That's pretty easy. We know most of the time. Okay, New York, Maine, Wyoming. Those are worst states. You can come up with 16 worst states. That's pretty simple. And then out of the 32 that's left, try to figure out what are the 16 best states. Once you come up with those 16 best states, focus on that. Those will be the best states, and if you stay in those states, you're going to outperform the DAT average trend lines. All right. For example, next slide. All right. So I believe in this so much that, and this is the first thing I did for myself years and years ago using. So this is on Trucker's Edge, the very first slide, all the way to the left. Of this, it says national load count, loads going in, loads going out. DAT gives you this, and the thing that I liked about it so much is because it's current. It is happening right now on their load board. How many loads are going into a state and how many loads are going out of the state? So it totally makes sense. You want to go to a load that has more freight leaving the state than going into the state. The brokers are more likely to call you and give you what you want. And I figured this out a long time ago. So what I do is, and nobody else does this, and so I love it when I show people this, is this is basically most volume and highest ratio equals supply and demand. This is the chart that I did for supply and demand. I take the number of loads out of the state and divide it by the loads going into the state. That gives me the ratio, but I take the volume. The volume is the states with the most volume leaving the state, and the ratio comes out to be, and then I also take 16 of the highest states with the highest ratio. What states have both the highest ratio and the highest volume? And you see Arkansas, Mississippi, South Carolina, Alabama, Illinois, Indiana, Missouri, Ohio, Georgia. What does all those states have in common? They all touch each other. They all touch either Tennessee and Kentucky. So, and I live here in Kentucky, by the way. And if I were to give someone advice, and this is what, if I was getting ready to go out on the road and this came up, I'm not going to go nowhere else other than stay in that one area and stay in that one particular area and go and never leave those states. If I did leave those states and I went outside those states, then I'm taking my backhaul with me. Wherever I go, I'm going to ask for more money to get back to one of those states. As long as you stay in those states, you're going to make more than the DAT trend line average. You can go way past that if you stay in these states because these states have the most demand. Go ahead, Pete.
So kind of a side note from a broker standpoint, my job is not to secure a truck at a rate. My job is to provide an option in a lot of cases. And if you have something where Chad's saying, hey, take your back haul with you, and he's saying, hey, I'll do it, but it's going to cost you 15 grand. If the customer needs it, let the broker present it. And a lot of times you'll get that kind of rate going into a market, especially if it's a bad market, and people know not to go there. So, again, you got to think in the idea of the broker wants an option and give him a fair enough option that he presents it to the shipper, and who knows.
That's how I got my first load with Pete. The true story. My first load with Pete was a shipper told Pete, go ahead, tell the story.
Well, I knew he was at home on the computer. And I had a shipper who needed a load that ran, and Chad says, I'll do it, but I need $4 a mile. I think it was $4 on all miles. The minute I leave my house, and I believed him. And I called Linda up. She's my customer. And I said, hey, I got a guy. He's rock solid. He's not going to be, he's going to take care of business, be on time, be polite, courteous, and kind. But he needs $4 on all miles. Once he leaves his house, she goes, where does he live? She said, do it.
I did that same load for 2 weeks.
And she asked for him in the advance. Yeah, she kept asking for him.
It gave me a lot of work. It was during the nighttime, so it was fun because during the nighttime, scale houses are closed and no traffic. Just crank out the miles and have fun. By the time you get done with the anyway, it was a fun run. Thank you, Pete, for that load. All right, so if you're not doing this, try it, and you'll learn something from it. And I know states are different. States are different sizes, but the trick is to do this with the states, and then you can start breaking it down by the market. Atlanta, Chicago, the market. Basically, the way to look at the market is to look at the major airports. Usually major airports, that's the market. And like, let's say outside of Louisville, where's the next major airport? And usually that'll help you guide where the market is. And plus, the DAT has tools to show you what market they're using. The next one. Every mega trucking company started with a dumbbell. Now, I don't know if this is 100% true. It was a class given to me by John Dwinell. I think I said his name correctly. He's the coach of the Master Broker course. Everybody that goes to it, hardly none of them become a broker, but it's really good for carriers to go to it because you learn so much about what brokers do. I learned the whole bill of lading thing was an amazing class. But he told me about this dumbbell that every mega truck company starts with a dumbbell. What that means is if you remember the 16 states I told you about? Well, if you narrowed that down to from one market to the next market, this is what happens. And this is I live in Lexington. This is an actual market that I did from Lexington to Nashville. And I kept posting myself wanting to run this lane from Lexington to Nashville, and I started working with the same brokers in Lexington that would have loads going to Nashville. And I would do the same thing when I got, and the reason why I did this is because I wanted to be home more. And I could run from Lexington down to Nashville, grab another load, come back home. And that's and that all in one day, all with my hours. And I would start working with the same brokers that had loads in Nashville that would bring me back to Lexington. And I started getting those brokers. I built relationships with them. I built relationships with some brokers in Lexington to where the actual shipper would call me, and then I would invoice the broker, and the broker would be like, we didn't give you this load. no, your shipper gave it to me. But I would always let the broker know, I got this load from your shipper. But anyway, by doing this, you'll eventually start having your own shippers in each area that's going to have freight going back to those places. That's how it worked for me. I did that, and that was a very profitable lane that I did. I want to speed through this real quick because we got some good stuff coming up. I'm running low on time. All right, make your load board work for you while you are sleeping. All right, a lot of guys don't like to post their truck. Here's a very easy way to post your truck. When you post your truck, if you don't want them calling, if you don't want brokers calling you, post your email. Put in the description of what you're looking for, what you're wanting to do, and in the comment section you could put empty, but we'll not have hours until 5 a.m. Not have hours. Oh, that's something else. Sorry about that. I thought I did something. All right. So post in your email, and then if brokers can see that note and see that you're going to be available at that time, they'll send you the emails of the loads they got for you. This is making the load board work for you. There's lots of ways to do this, lots of tips and tricks. Follow us in the Facebook group, and you can get a lot of advice there. But make sure you post your truck. This is the easiest way to get brokers to work for you. All right. And I got one more good way to make the load board work for you as soon as I find Robert. Oh, there he is. All right, this is the thing that I wanted to share with you all. I've been what Robert's getting ready to tell you is something I've been working on for a long time, and he's going to tell you what we got now. This is for the carriers, what he's getting ready to tell you.
All right, I'll make this really quick. So, as of this morning, DAT released a brand new feature to our DAT1 application. And one of the things that really drove this feature was carriers were always talking about posting their trucks and how that actually worked, and how they want brokers to post more information about their trucks. And so one of the things that just made sense to us was, hey, we want our carriers to be able to post their rate, show the brokers what your rate is, and so that way, when they're calling you, they're not calling you for like, hey, we run something for $2 a mile when you want to make $3 or $3.50 or $4, right? So this is a brand new feature, just got released today. False alarm, good. Okay, so. But anyways, so this is released today. Brokers are going to be able, when you post your truck, brokers are going to be able to see that. So you post that, so that way brokers will at least know when they start that negotiation where you're at. Chad, I know you have lots of good stuff. I'll let you go ahead and take back over, buddy.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for Robert for doing that for us. All right. Okay, it's a false alarm. Don't leave. Let me finish this up. I got very little time. All right. What I like about this so much is think about this. A lot of carriers, and I'm going to be posting about this all the time because I think it's so important, so important. Like I call this painter to come paint the house. He comes to my house. He tells me what it's going to cost. He's the service provider. That's what we are as carriers, as owner-operators. We are the service provider. We should be the ones that provide the rate to the broker. Thank you. So let's think about it this way. What is often we always see people post, other owner-operated carriers, they always want to post, DAT should make brokers post the rate. Guess what? Okay, let's say if DAT made it mandatory, all brokers have to post the rate. What happens to rates? Rates would go down. Rates would go down. But what if DAT, it ain't going to happen, but what if DAT said, all right, all carriers now have to post their rate? What do you think happens to rates then? If carriers are posting their rate, it's going to go up. That's why this is so important. This is how I beat the market all the time, is by posting my rate. Pete, what happens when a carrier posts their rate?
You don't call them if you're too far off the game. That's for damn sure. On a side note, when he's talking about watching the brokers posting the rates, and it drives the markets down. You need to, if you're going into a market, the day before, watch the loads. I see it again and again and again. Brokers competing against each other to get the first phone call from a truck, and the rates will go up. We call it the 3 o'clock hustle. When you know when to book a load, when to book your truck, when to not. In the same market every day, someone's getting $4 a mile and somebody's getting $2 a mile. And you got to use the tools in front of you in order to be the $4 or even the $5 guy. Hell.
Shane, I never got your opinion about this. I don't know what you're going to say. what do you, what, this is new to you because I couldn't tell you, I think you were left out of this conversation. But what is your opinion about DAT letting us now post our rate as carriers? We finally get to post it and the brokers get to see it.
I actually see it as a very advantageous tool for most carriers or owner-operators, drivers that are posting their trucks. If they're wanting to stay in a certain lane, you can kind of specify your lane and post your rate in that lane. It really helps you benchmark yourself. If a broker comes out and needs to cover a load right now, there's a truck there with a rate. If that rate works with them, they're not going to call the other 30 trucks that are posted and try to negotiate. They're going to call the guy, hey, you know what, you got a rate that'll work with me, or you got a rate, hey, you know what, you're $500 higher than what I need to be. If you can do it for $500 less, let's get this done and get this stuff off my customer's dock.
Brokers get access to a lot of loads, and a lot of those, what they're looking for is someone that will do it. They don't want to waste their, almost repeated what Shane's saying, the brokers are not wanting to waste their time calling 10 different carriers and see if something works. If they can find a truck that has a rate posted, they can go right back to the customer, and they can be the first broker to that customer to give the rate. That's what excites me about it. So when we leave here on Monday, whenever you go out again, it is working, it's live. Get on the load board and post. Try it one time. Post your rate. Everybody has a go anywhere, haul anything rate. Try the DAT trend lines. It says it's 306 per mile. You know something I do every Friday when I don't want to leave the house? I post. I take the number we've seen on DAT trend lines that said 306 per mile. I'll times it by 2 and say 612 is my rate to go anywhere, haul anything. And it sounds crazy. It sounds crazy, but I'll still get brokers that'll call me up and say and talk to me about wanting to do it. And the reason why I come up with that number is because a broker will have something on a Friday that delivers on a Saturday, and I can't get home on a Saturday. But if the broker paid me enough money to go there and deliver it, and I can deadhead back to the house, hey, I just, it's worth it to me.
As a broker, I would lose $2,000 on the first load to get a customer all day. If I had an option, I could service them. The most I've lost on a load is $2,400. 24.
Wow.
Yeah, but I've made it tens of thousands on the customer.
Okay, I think this is going to be my last slide here. What's better, spot market or contract? Again, and I threw this out there because I have done the spot market for 11 years. 99% of my freight has come from the spot market. I have chosen the spot market. Right now, it's currently even right now between spot market and contract. Contract is what a broker is getting from a shipper or their customer, and what a carrier is getting from a shipper. It takes out the broker part of this. By running the spot market, I can outperform contract rates. What do you got, Pete, on this?
If I was a truck, spot market all day. I'd put myself where I wanted to be, and I'd study it, and I'd work it. I mean, the cool thing about this DAT1, you now have in real time what the market is for that day. And we've never had this. I mean, there's no app that predicts the future, but if you take all the tools, you pay attention, you study the trend lines, you can become that app that predicts the future, and you know where to place yourself. And it was the sweetest thing in the world. If you can put yourself in a $4 a mile market that's about to flip, and then suddenly you're getting $4 back out, that's beautiful. You don't have to do that very often.
Awesome. Appreciate it, Pete. We're out of time.